How's everybody doing? I hope you all are well. And I thank everyone who posted their questions. There's a lot to answer, so let's begin. There are individuals who've done quite well for themselves, own restaurants, and make a good living. Certain individuals on Mulberry Street, for instance. Why do these guys want to be made? It's not like they have to go and rob and scheme. What's the benefit to be made when you already did well in life or business? First of all, a lot of guys in their life didn't start out owning businesses. And for those who already own businesses, I guess they want the power that goes along with it. It's a mistake many legitimate guys make. They have a good business or several businesses and don't need anything from anyone, yet they want to be known as a wise guy. And believe me, in time, they'll regret it. Could you please explain how loan sharks work? Why would anyone agree to those interest rates? The reason people agree to the VIG is because they're unable to borrow money from family or friends or get approved for a traditional loan from a bank. And usually, in most cases, a loan shark's their last choice. A loan shark lends you money, which is the principal. He charges you a weekly VIG, depending on who it is, 2, 3, 4, or 5 points. Personally, I would charge 3 points. And that VIG must be paid until the principal is given back in full. With all these mob families in Palermo, how did they coexist? Did they share the wealth or compete? Palermo has somewhere in the vicinity of 700,000 people, and it's considered the largest city in Sicily. I believe each family goes about their own business. I'm sure at times business becomes entangled, but regardless, they seem to be able to work it out. What was the most complicated sit-down for you, and what was it about? I previously mentioned it. It was a sit-down between us and the Bananos. However, because it'll be an upcoming video, I don't want to get into it just yet. As an expert on mob life, do you think Wild Bill Cotolo was a bit naive when Alphonse Persico sent for him? Well, first, I wouldn't describe myself as an expert on mob life. I was just a former member. And I wouldn't describe Wild Bill as naive at all. The mistake he made was trusting his friends. And in that life, most guys are not your friends. In my opinion, they killed him for no reason, and it was a loss to their family. When legitimate businesses are on record with a family or a crew, are they always required to make regular cash payments? If a business is forced on record through threats and extortion, are they treated the same? Again, it all depends on who the business is with and what they expect. There's no blueprint to having a guy or a business on record. If a business is forced to be on record, obviously they're treated much different. What might be the advantage of a ruling panel instead of an acting boss, underboss, and consigliere? If a captain and an underboss are on the same panel, is the underboss still superior? Is an official underboss higher in rank than an acting boss? Panels are put in place for various reasons. If a boss is in prison, ideally, you want to have an acting boss, underboss, and consigliere. If a captain's on a panel with an underboss, the captain's in an active administrative position as well. Technically, an underboss outranks him. When an acting boss is put in place, keep in mind, he's in an acting position for the boss, so an underboss is beneath him. Did you ever hear any stories from people in their life in regard to the French Connection while in jail or on the street? The French Connection involved members of the Corsican mafia who began trafficking heroin they produced in labs to the United States. The drugs were then sent to the port in Marseille, headed to New York City. There were numerous seizures involving hundreds of pounds of heroin. During the 70s, cops from the New York City Police Department let people who were involved in organized crime take the heroin that was being held in the evidence storage room, as many of us have seen in the movie The French Connection. I've only heard one person mention The French Connection, and he was able to get some of that stolen heroin, and that was Bobby Sorensen, who I was away with. Can a made guy make money being a hitman for hire for civilian clients? Or can he only do hits for his mafia family? In that life, you're not supposed to do hits for money. Can it happen? Of course. But personally, I've never heard of it taking place. What is the role of an enforcer in a family? What are they allowed to do to made members? There's no such title. The word enforcer was used by newspapers and authors. Naturally, there are certain guys and families who are more capable than other members, but no one's permitted to put their hands on another member unless ordered to do so. Are mob guys allowed to use their status in fights with civilians? They're not supposed to. Do guys take advantage of a civilian's disadvantage? All the time. What's the point of the shaving rule when today it actually makes you stand out? Look, rules are rules, whether they're followed or not. I don't believe people who shave stand out more. There's a great deal of clean-shaven people, and it's not a sign that they're wise guys. What would you say to your 16-year-old self? I believe we had this question before, but I'll answer it in another way. John, if you think these 16 years were difficult, wait till you see what the next 38 have in store for you. What was the most difficult part of being in their life? I would have to say, watching in disbelief all the underhanded moves and the backstabbing that was going on around me. And I'm not speaking about my situation, just in general, which segues us into the next question. Did any guys express being worn out by the life? We all, including myself, complained about one thing or another. I've had conversations with guys who were totally disgusted with certain situations, especially when someone with authority would take away a guy or an earn away from them. I believe if you were able to take a secret poll, most guys would walk away if they were able to. This next question came from an email. Do active organized crime figures ever discuss the books released by cooperators? For example, the Lucchese guys like Lastarino or Della Rosso discussed the Arco's book. Once in a while, you would hear something mentioned that was in a book. As for Frankie Lastarino, we've only spoken one time, so he's never mentioned nothing to me. But Patty brought up the Arco's book. Of course, he said the Arco lied in the book. It was in regard to him bad-mouthing a guy named Tommy Red from Pennisi. But knowing Patty's MO, he definitely said it. Now we have a question asking me about my favorite restaurants in Staten Island. I like Denoy on Victory Boulevard. In fact, it's the restaurant where we were having a sit-down with the Gambinos, and none of us were ever introduced to each other. La Fontana was pretty good, and I also like La Strada. Porky and Frankie Camuso's place, Bella Mama Rose, had surprisingly good food. I used to slip into the West Shore Inn Steakhouse every now and then for a steak. For Chinese food, I went to the Oriental Plaza. As for pizza, I like Danino's. But my favorite place was a small spot Ernie Grillo and I always used to go to, called Cucina Mia. Inside, they had a showcase with all homemade Italian food. We'd pick out what we wanted, they'd heat it up and bring it over to our table. We used to go all the time. Then one day we spotted an agent parked right where this car's at, and that was our last meal that we had at Cucina Mia. I mentioned the Super Thanks icon beneath these videos because it helps me keep these videos coming, and I appreciate everyone who's used it, and I thank you for your generosity. The thing you most regret when you were a member of the mob and joining the mob doesn't count. How about that? Now we're adding stipulations to the questions. Okay, there were many things I regretted while I was a member. I would have to say at the top of that list is that I didn't treat people who betrayed me in the end accordingly. If we look back at our lives, we've all made mistakes, every one of us. But if we turn those mistakes into lessons, they become to our benefit because it adds to our wisdom. Throughout this journey, I've come away with many lessons. However, some traits are difficult to overcome. To this day, my mother tells me I'm too trusting of people. So I guess that's something I need to work on. Louis Jett used to say to me, "Your mother's tougher than any gangster I know." But in all honesty, my mother has softened with age. With that said, every once in a while she'll tell me, "I was thinking of so-and-so, and I like to punch him in his face."